BlackRock loves to get their hands on pretty much as much of anything it possibly can, whether that's stocks or real estate, and now its new shiny toy being crypto and specifically Bitcoin. But there will be a time where BlackRock has its eyes set on a few altcoins that it likely sees an institutional use case for, and I believe the project I am buying today, actually I've been buying this now for the last month and a bit, is a possible candidate for BlackRock to hedge into the future of crypto and therefore institutional grade application. This is a project that will stand the test of time. I like to buy altcoins that if a black swan happens tomorrow and I'm stuck holding all of my coins, at least I know it'll do well in perpetuity. So guys, I want to introduce you to what this coin is today, why I am so bullish. It is a smaller cap, so there's more potential multiples here. Without further ado, don't forget, if you find yourself enjoying it, hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed, and let's begin. Had you been subscribed to the channel over the last month, you may have heard in many of the top 10 altcoin videos a coin called Morpho being brought up, and that is the subject of today's video. To cut a long story short, and I will dive deeper into the bullish catalysts that make up the reason why I'm making a video on Morpho today. But to cut a long story short, it's mainly because this coin is focusing on lending, okay? So it's a DeFi coin, lending, borrowing, but it's on two major ecosystems where I believe most attention for DeFi will come into this cycle, which is, of course, Base and Ethereum. Now, Ethereum by far is the leader in, of course, anything to do with DeFi, but Base is issuing in institutional grade DeFi as well. This is why I think Morpho has, with a small market cap being 460 million, gained a TVL of $5.4 billion. That is one of the largest market cap to TVL ratios in crypto right now. And the reason that's good is because obviously it's being used, but also because we often do see projects in this landscape actually have their market cap eclipse the TVL. So if that's the case, we are possibly looking at 11 or 12x already. But besides all that, they've got some massive partners, okay? They're trusted by some of the largest projects in the space. Many of you guys have obviously heard of these coins, but also they're backed by the largest institutions and individual angel investors in crypto, bar none. Now, that, of course, doesn't make up my whole entire research thesis. You'll see why in a second here. The product itself has gained so much attention, but I want to give a special shout out here before I do that to Not Telling on Twitter. Guys, pause the video, go to the link down below and give him a follow. He's the reason I even got into Morpho about a month or so ago. Seldom are there projects out there that come across my desk that I look at and I go, they are well positioned for what they're trying to do. Most of the time in crypto, it's just how can we get the most attention? How can we do the least amount of work possible and get the most out of the market, get the most attention and pump out bags? But these guys are just doing it differently. So they created these things called Morpho Vaults. And a Morpho Vault is a very customizable lending pool, essentially. Now, lending pools, you can see all the ones here currently on Morpho. And this is a way in which, let's say, an institutional investor, for example, a user of Morpho, wants to create a specific lending product for their desired end user, which may be retail or it may be another institution, for example. Well, before this, they could really only create one single pool in which people can go ahead and lend into, so put up money for people to borrow, and one pool for people to borrow out of. But Morpho have kind of restructured this and allowed for a lot of different customization factors to be implemented here. Now, why that's important, as you'll see here with this example, is if you want to borrow out of one pool or you want to borrow one particular asset, there might be a multitude of different pools available within one Morpho Vault, like we saw over here. There might be multiple, right? You can see on the corner, there is a fair few. And so what this particular vault does, or what the vaults can do, is if you wanted to borrow from the middle pool, like $3,000, while there might not be $3,000 worth of liquidity in this, they actually come together, they reroute and they supply the liquidity for that vault to allow the borrower to borrow exactly the asset that they want. So if they want this wrapped ST Ether, they can get that from the pool without having to lend out another asset and then swap that into their asset after this particular exchange has occurred. So what you're really getting here is the chance to be able to lend or borrow with any type of asset that you may wish, but pull in the liquidity across the whole entire broad range of collateralized assets, essentially. Now, I know that might be like foreign language to some guys, so I don't want to spend too much more time here, but this also allows you, based on averages, to pull in a much higher APY for those people who are looking to lend as well. And you compare this with competitors like Aave here on a pool like their wrapped ETH, and it's just one type of asset to borrow, one type of asset to supply on the lender's side, and the APY is much, much lower. So that's why the ecosystem, I think, right now, actually building on Morpho has swelled. They've again been out for quite a while. The project's actually been around for a couple of years. The token's only been transferable or available to buy in the last month and a half. So it's very new, but very old, if that makes sense. And I see this really taking off here as people begin to wake up to the fact that this new type of lending and borrowing platform here is the only way forward, especially for, like I said, institutions. So it's institutional grade DeFi, but it's also on two institutional grade platforms. Most importantly, Base, which we'll talk about today, and of course, Ethereum. Ethereum is the obvious pick here for institutional grade anything right now. So why I wanted to point out Base was just to simply mention to you, being positioned on Base, I think they're in a perfect spot to absorb most of the incoming demand from not just institutions, but also from retail, because Coinbase have really tried to target in their kind of MO here, the next billion users into crypto. Now, they're well way off actually doing that. Again, most projects claim they want to bring in 1 billion users. But Coinbase, as far as I've seen so far, have some of the best products to allow this to actually happen. One of those being the smart wallets. This allows people to easily spin up a decentralized, non-custodial wallet simply. Again, this is a big problem because you guys know learning how to use MetaMask and all that sort of stuff, it's always a barrier to entry, right? So they're removing that, also allowing people to buy crypto with their debit cards via Apple Pay. So this is a great, I think, position to be in for Morpho because, again, Base is just simply targeting this audience, which is why the net inflows by chain in the last 3 months has Base dominating the competition over a 2x from second place being Solana. So big stuff. They're also working, of course, with guys like Blackrock. They are the custodian for pretty much all of the ETF providers. So there are likely connections that we don't know about behind the scenes. And if you want to learn more about these possible connections, watch this video I made 2 weeks ago, drawing more conclusions about why Base is the perfect institutional and retail-based chain out there right now. So let's steer the conversation now back to specifically Morpho. And I wanted to make a very brief mention here and compare it with some other lending projects on Base, which is, of course, Moonwell and Aave. Now, this is, again, specifically the TVL here on Base. And while Morpho is on Base and Ethereum, the lion's share of the TVL is on Ethereum, okay? So it's leading the pack right now for TVL for lending borrowing platforms on Base, which is very impressive. Again, particularly because it's competing with Aave. So there was a post here by Blockworks that I do reference that particular photo from, and they do also mention Moonwell's pretty high stats, I think, here for their annualized fees. The annualized fees for Moonwell is actually $25 million, which means that the last month's performance in terms of fees generated for Moonwell annualized is quite a large amount, 25 mil. Now, if we compare this to Morpho, Morpho's over 4 times more than that. But the key thing here is that Morpho hasn't actually turned on the revenue part of the protocol just yet. So they're, earning fees, of course, to give back to the guys who are putting up that sort of collateral like the lenders, but they're not actually getting any revenue back for the protocol. This is great because, of course, when they do turn this on, and I believe they will at some point, we're going to have probably roughly 5 times the amount of, revenue here to the likes of Moonwell, which will be about, give or take, $20 million. For Morpho to begin marketing, and not just marketing as well, but giving back likely a majority of that to token holders like Aerodrome. A big selling point of Aerodrome, a DEX on Base, is that they give 100% of all the revenue back to the token holders for governance, the governance holders, right? This, of course, is a great opportunity for people to want to, of course, go into Aerodrome in perpetuity, right? Increase the TVL technically as well. So this could be a potential huge unlock here in the short term for Morpho when they eventually decide to turn on that revenue side of things. Now, as far as the TVL goes, like the full TVL on Morpho being just over $5.2 billion is actually larger than one of its host chains being Base. Space's total TVL is $4.4 billion. That is an incredible number to think about. Now, comparing Morpho to the big daddy of the lending, borrowing space in crypto being Aave, Aave's market cap is 10 times larger than Morpho's. Yet the fees annualized are only about 7 times larger. Now, while that discrepancy might not sound like much, okay, so what the fees are, closer to, Aave's in the market cap, guys, you've got to understand that means that the product itself is being used. When we're looking at these DeFi projects in general, where it's, DEXs or lending borrowing platforms like Aave and Morpho, this is where it counts. This is where we actually have a glimpse into the quality of the project. Fundamentals is extremely important to look at here, particularly for layer 1 projects and your, DPIN, your AI coins, your real asset coins. But for DeFi, it all matters on chain. This stuff here is what you have to look into. Okay, this is an indication, hey, it's being used more in some capacity, in which Morpho right now is actually outpacing, not beating, but it's outpacing Aave. Having a look at another very mature project that was around in the last cycle here, being Compound, again, lending and borrowing platform, the fees annualized are less than a quarter of Morpho's, yet the market cap is like almost $200 to $300 million more. So the projects that are larger in market cap than Morpho are being outpaced or flat out just absolutely destroyed in terms of the fees. So that's a very good sign indeed. Again, the products are being used. That's why I'm really excited to see what may come in the near future here. I believe it could be a candidate for the fact that we may actually see the market cap overtake the TVL, because at this current rate, if they turn on that revenue mechanism fast enough, I believe, if they do take and pocket some of that, it's going to increase the market cap. It's going to allow them to market the project. It'll allow more people to want to come into the coin and actually buy the project, the token itself, because again, there's more speculation involved in the sense that just like Aerodrome, there is the rewards given back to token holders. And that's why it's gotten $68 million with funding. I believe the institutions see what's happening here. They know there is a large upside potential for this project, which is why they've given it so much bloody money. 97 investors, mind you, a lot of investors. And if we actually single out some of the top ones here, like Pantera, IOShi, Fembushi, Kraken, and the rest of it, these are all big, big names. This guy is the GP of Dragonfly Capital, one of the S-tier VCs in the space. Nicholas over here, he's the CEO or co-founder of Ledger. Fernando is one of the founders over here of Balancer. Coinbase is also an investor. And the reason I wanted to point this out is because Coinbase hasn't even listed this just yet. So there's a potential listing, I think, on the horizon as well for this coin. Now, while you may agree with these massive bullish aspects of the coin, it would be disingenuous of me not to mention the possible red flag of the coin. And it really isn't a red flag as much as we should always poke holes in every investment we make. If the red flags are substantial enough to prevent people to want to buy the coin, then that should be a reason maybe you don't want to buy the coin. Now, what I'm talking about here is their vesting schedule, right? This doesn't look too good. It's a classical low float, high supply situation. And you are brought to believe by many different influencers out there that low float, high supply is a bad thing. And look, I'll admit, it's not ideal, but neither is having all the tokens in circulation like Near Protocol, Injective, and Solana. Because the main concern when looking at a chart like this is that the unlocked tokens coming out over here to a maximum of the next 12 months, so December of 2025, we can expect to the end of the bull run to be, is that venture capitalists, the guys who I just told you about, they're getting all their tokens, right? They're going to sell because their only incentive to buy into a coin like us is to make money. So of course, when they get their tokens, particularly these guys over here, these strategic partners, they're going to sell their tokens. So like many people seem to believe, that means there's going to be sell pressure. And of course, that's true. But there won't be more sell pressure in a coin like this, comparing it to other coins, like I mentioned, Solana, Injective, and Near Protocol, because the one thing that these big boys understand, these VCs, is that number one, most retail people in crypto, people like you and me, we perceive quality in terms of a coin by how the chart looks. If the chart looks like an obvious pump and dump or a dump in terms of the VCs, they're not going to buy. They know this. They're not dumb, okay? And so what does that mean? That means if they get 25% of their tokens over the next 12 months max, they're not going to kill the token completely because they miss out on the other, 70 or 60% of their tokens for the next cycle. They will not do it. It's as simple as that, okay? They might, some of them might, but again, I can't speak for all of these guys, but they just simply will not completely kill the token. Now, the same can't be said for a VC or series of VCs, like in those aforementioned projects that have all of their tokens, because they could dump it all tomorrow, and they don't care about the quality of the project in the future. They don't care if people don't buy back in again, because they're completely out. We need to change the way we think about this sort of stuff in crypto, guys. Don't follow the leader. Think critically about it. Would you rather the VCs have 100% of their tokens or 30 or 40% of their tokens? Just think about it like that. So looking at this chart, I'll admit, still it's not great because at this point in time, at the December of 2025, the latest, they will have like a majority of the supply, as you can see amongst all of them, early contributors in light green, strategic partners in blue. However, one, the team won't have their tokens, which is the main important thing I do believe. Two, these guys aren't going to want to kill the token. And three, it is far better than having all of them in circulation because there is no consequence for killing the perceived value of the token. And let me just say, by the way, guys, I'm not trying to convince you that, hey, ignore this part of the token, like just look at all the great things about it. I'm not trying to do that. I'm personally invested in a Morpho. I'm very transparent about what I own and what I tell you guys about. If this is a deterrent for you, so be it. So be it. I've been here before with the likes of Ondo and others. If you don't like it because of the vesting schedule, then that is your own investment thesis, and I'll leave it at that, right? It's your money. This is not financial advice. Now, the dominance on this coin is important to point out because since its launch, it's actually 4.5x'd its dominance, which is very important because in this light blue color you can see here, this is actually the altcoin market cap, all right, excluding the top 10 cryptocurrencies. And while this is trending down, which means money's leaving altcoins, money's flowing into Morpho. So that's a very good sign. When dominance increases on a coin like this, especially when the dominance goes, when money's leaving altcoins, that is a very strong signal. So going to possible price predictions for the coin, which by the way, non-financial advice, these are all just predictions. My personal take on the coin, we're looking at an 8, 10, and 12 trillion global market cap. And what would happen to the dominance if we kind of stayed, roughly speaking, to where we are at about 1%, so a little bit less than what it is right now? What would happen at each of these market cap levels? Also, what happens at a 5 and 10x of that dominance? You see, the thing about cryptocurrencies is that their all-time highs, when they peak out with their narratives, they usually have a peak dominance between a 5 and 10x from their rough lows. And given it's a new coin, I'm going to say its rough low here is about 0.01%, or again, a bit less from where it is right now. So given that, we can expect about a 0.05 and 0.1% dominance at its absolute peak high. So going off for dominance and therefore pulling down from the global market cap, we can expect different size market caps for the coin. And so if we consider that there's about 300 million tokens in circulation around about December of 2025, we can expect around a $17 token. What I find about a lot of these DeFi projects is there is a point where the TVL is actually eclipsed by the market cap. So this is what we've found here in the history with likes of Uniswap. Okay, we call it the flip, where you can see here the TVL in this pinkish color eventually is overcome by the market cap in green. Now this happened with, again, Uniswap in the last cycle. We saw the market cap really shoot up here well over the TVL, which was great, but that's a DEX. Now, as we said, Morpho is not a DEX. It's a lending borrowing platform. So that's more akin to Aave. Now, Aave did have a slight flip, temporarily speaking here, in the market cap TVL ratio. It didn't last long though. It was only very brief. So I think a very good comparison we can kind of draw here is with Compound, because Compound did not flip its TVL at all. I do think Morpho is a good contender here for possibly flipping the TVL, its market cap, but what if it doesn't? So let's look at that. Based on all the numbers I've ended up doing for this video, that there was about a 6.5x TVL growth from roughly where we are right now in the last bit of Compound, where its market cap went from 450 mil to 4.4 bill, and its TVL again 6.5x to 20 billion. So if we kind of draw those same conclusions here for the possible growth of Morpho, given a current market cap of 450 mil, and if we 6.5x roughly the TVL right now, it's going to put us at a TVL at about 36 billion. And if we follow the same principles that gave us some of the numbers there for compound, in that we look at a roughly 80% from the TVL drop in market cap, it'll roughly put us at about a $7.2 billion market cap for Morpho. And if we account for tokens diluted, worst case, that's a $24 token. Now, do I think that Morpho can go above $17 or $24? The answer is absolutely. Now, I don't know that for certain. Maybe it doesn't. But given the fundamental nature of Morpho, given that it's changing the DeFi lending game, and given that it's focusing on institutions, it's on Ethereum and also base. I mean, guys, the fact that end of story, we have more money flowing into crypto by about 4 or 5 times in the last cycle. It's just expected, in my personal opinion, a unique enough coin like Morpho is going to do quite well. So as for a personal instinct feeling of Morpho, I do think a 20x is definitely possible. That's a $60 token. But again, you want to apply the GGR zone logic to this, in that if we are looking for a price prediction of $60, that's my personal take. That's non-financial advice, mind you. You should never look at taking that as face value, because the price prediction might be the all-time high of a coin, might be the minute or the moment that coin, like over here for Arrow currently, hits that price and comes crashing back down again. So what you want to do is pull down 35%. Let's just pretend that's, I don't know, $40 for argument's sake here. And that becomes the actual top of a liquid zone in which you can get out of. Now, this all depends on how realistic the price prediction is. If I said Morpho can go to $3,000 and you pull down 35%, that ain't going to help you. So you want to use a combination of data like we've done today and pumpermentals and on-chain stats, and then look at a possible price, a prediction. Many of you who are new to crypto won't have that inkling or ability to know that sort of stuff based on your research. And even us experts, at the end of the day, are all just guessing. And that's the whole point, right? Be as safe as you possibly can, get out as low as possible. And with that being said, I'm really excited to see where Morpho can possibly go this cycle. It's one of my 2 main base ecosystem plays and DeFi plays. The other one, of course, being Aerodrome Finance. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll talk to you all soon. Let me know your thoughts down below. Bye-bye.